Hi guys, Gordon Hanks here with Team Hanks of Berkshire Hathaway Home Service. We're your family of real estate professionals for Oregon. And today we have a special guest with us. Lonnie Canopa is going to be here to discuss title and escrow. But before we go there, just in case you don't know who I am, I started in real estate about 15 years ago, and then I got busy. And after I got busy, I hired the best person I could think of to help me out, and that was my wife. We got even busier, and we had to add someone else. The logical thing was to get my daughter aboard. That was Shalisa, and together we became Team Hanks. Over the years, we've done considerable amount of business in this area, and one of the things that I find is most hard for people to understand is the activities and the function of title and escrow. So I invited Lonnie aboard to help us understand. But before we get into that, make sure you tag somebody who might be considering buying a home or selling a home. This information is for them. And as always, we do appreciate the hearts, the likes, and the wows. So feel free to do that. Feel free to comment on, and even in the YouTube rebroadcast, if you have a question, ask away. We're going to get back to you one way or another. So before we... So let's get this started, and I got a button or two to push, and here's Lonnie. Thanks, Lonnie. Hi, Lonnie. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hey, Gordon, I'd love to. So I work for Western Title and Escrow, and the technical definition of an escrow is a transaction where one party engages in the transfer or lease of a real or personal property with another person who delivers a written instrument, money, or other items of value to a neutral third party called an escrow agent. That's me. The escrow agent holds the money or items for disbursement upon the performance of a specified condition. The escrow agent impartially carries out the written instructions given by the principals, being our buyer and our seller. This includes receiving funds and documents necessary to comply with those instructions and complete the successful closing of the transaction.
So in essence, the escrow portion of the company is basically a holding place for all the information and monies and documents for both the buyer and the seller and the lender and everybody who's actually part of the transaction. Is that a fair thing to say?
That is correct.
Okay. So where does the word title out of title and escrow come in?
So the title end of things, our title department does a detailed exam of all the available public records on a property to verify the seller's right to sell the property and uncover any potential liens or challenges we might have in transferring clear title to the buyer. Title is going to reveal things such as unpaid taxes, unsatisfied mortgages, judgments against the seller and or buyer, and restrictions limiting the use of the land.
Okay, so is that where, in my closing documents, is that where the word ALTA comes from? Is that involved here? Does it come into play here at this point?
That's the American Land Title Association, what all title companies are governed by, yes.
Okay, Lonnie, so I see other terms on there too, and one of them is RESPA. What in the world is RESPA? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
RESPA stands for Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. The main objective was to protect homeowners by assisting them in becoming better educated while shopping for real estate services. It helps them eliminate kickbacks and referral fees, which add extra costs to their closing. RESPA also requires lenders and others involved in mortgage lending to provide borrowers with pertinent and timely disclosures regarding the nature and costs of a real estate settlement closing.
Okay, so it sounds like basically another governing source. Would that be a fair assessment?
That's correct.
Okay, so now I've always wondered this question. How does Western Title get paid for their services?
It's based on sales price and loan amount, and it's all regulated by the Title Insurance Division.
Got it. Okay, so, I mean, we're talking about closing costs, Lonnie, so what would be something else that we might see in the closing costs?
If you're a seller, and you have a loan or two on the property, you're going to see a reconveyance fee. And that fee right now is $165, and that's to ensure that the loans that we're paying off on behalf of the seller are in fact released from the property. We have a department that tracks the receiving of the original promissory note, trust deed, and request for reconveyance, and then we take those documents and actually prepare the deed of reconveyance and record it in the county records so that it shows the seller has in fact paid it off, and we ensure that the buyer's got clear title.
What happens if I got a guy who's out of the area? Let's say for right now you and I are dealing with a transaction where we've got somebody in Nebraska, and they of course they're not going to be able to just come out here and sign documents and all the things that we need for them to do in order to get this closed. Is there a way that you could manage this so that they can actually close where they're at?
Absolutely. We have a nationwide mobile notary service that we use. It's called BankServe. And we upload all of the documents to their secure portal. They print all of the documents off, and they will take the documents to the buyer or seller's home, place of business, or they can meet them at a restaurant, anywhere that's convenient, and they work all hours. So it doesn't have to be the standard 8 to 5. They can work on the weekends. They're very accommodating for our buyers and our sellers, and that fee for a seller is typically $125, and for a buyer, you're looking at about $150 to $200. It depends. If they're in a remote area, some of our coastal customers, the fee is a little higher for them.
Yeah, well, it's still way better than the plane ticket and 2 days' wages, huh?
It is. And if you're dealing with a cash transaction on a buyer side, and there's no need for a notary of any kind, they're just taking title as individuals, not in their trust, we can actually just DocuSign a buyer.
And DocuSign is a way of signing electronically, correct?
That's correct.
Recently, we set up, we meaning my company and your company, set up a for sale by owner in one of our closings with you. Can you explain to us a little bit about how that works? I know it's kind of a unique deal. It's great how it worked out. This, by the way, for those of you who don't know, this is where the buyer has sold the property and he is willing to take care of the paper. He's willing to make a loan for the buyer on his own right. But we can do that through an escrow company. Lonnie, would you tell us a little bit about that, please?
There are several collection escrow companies out there that we utilize. We like to keep it local if we can here in Roseburg, so that if there's ever a problem, our clients can actually go in and see somebody face to face. So our role in a seller carry transaction where the seller is acting as lender is to prepare the promissory note, trust deed, request for reconveyance, and then all of the collection escrow documents. And we take care of setting that up so that once escrow is closed, all of those servicing documents get sent over to the collection escrow company, whether it be AmeriTitle, Pacific Trust Deed, Evergreen. There's several out there that can help.
I mean, basically, I've always heard it said that that's probably one of the cheapest ways of going about getting your accounting done is get it done through one of the escrow services. Is that correct?
If you were a seller and a buyer, I think it's smart to have a neutral third party servicing that account, because they take care of, it's a one-time setup fee and you have a monthly fee for the disbursement of funds. I think it's money well spent. Because you have a neutral party that's going to be responsible for the receiving and dispersing. They hold on to the security documents, and they will also provide you with tax 1099 information at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's one of the best things I've heard of. So, folks, I know that, like Lonnie said, you don't really want to go out and try to do this thing. This is a big old elephant, and you don't really want to go out and try to, be an agent yourself. But there are situations where this is sometimes the only way it can be done. Say the buyer doesn't have terms that are acceptable to a nationwide lender, but they might be acceptable to a personal seller. Maybe the seller's willing to take that risk. If that does happen, then you go see Lonnie, and she can actually set it up through some escrow service that they can actually take care of the accounting portion of that. Is that a fair summation, Lonnie?
Yes, it is.
All right. Lonnie, I want to let you know I really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes for us today. If there's a nebulous part of this whole transaction and real estate thing, it's always been title and escrow for me. It took me a lot of years to get a firm understanding of what you folks do over there, and we really do appreciate it. I mean, I've seen. Well, you and I both know that there's been a lot of times when title has saved a lot of agents' bacon in this market, and held up both ends of the deal as far as the buyer and the seller, and protected their interests as well. And I really, really appreciate that, Lonnie.
Well, we really appreciate you, Gordon, and all of our realtors out there. We like being part of the team. It's a highly stressful time, and it's serious work, but I think that we can have fun while we're doing it, and we can do it right.
Me too. I want to make it memorable for the buyer and memorable for the seller, and I want them to have a good time. And should anything go wrong, we've got the professionals right there who can handle that. Thank you very much for your time, Lonnie.
Thank you, Gordon.
So there it is, guys. That was Lonnie Canopa giving us that education. So you can kind of think of title and escrow as the hub around which the whole wheel turns. It's kind of centralized location where we all transfer information, monies, contracts, so on and so forth. And they've got the knowledge to be able to piece that all together, and they catch, they'll help us clean up contracts. They're there to help clean up titles, so on and so forth. I really appreciate those guys. I can't imagine doing this job without them. Listen, guys, you're going to want to tune in next week. We're going to be talking about 5 easy fixes that we see on a consistent basis in the inspection reports. They don't need to be there. This is easy stuff, and after talking to Ed from Good News Inspections and a couple of the other gentlemen, you're going to want to know this. There's no reason to muddy up an inspection report with any more than it has to be muddied up with, and I'm going to share some of those things with you. It's going to be kind of interesting and very informative, so be sure, set aside some time next week, Friday at 7 o'clock, and join us for that. Folks, thank you so much for hearing us. I appreciate the visits. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate Jonathan. Thanks for coming by. Gail, and of course, the family, Team Hags. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you being there for me. And, God bless you guys. Have a good evening, and most of all, be happy.